Some viewers may find the following video disturbing. Viewer discretion is advised.
I don't wanna be on the ground when the time flies. Had so many friends go, I wonder when it's my time. I live every day like I'll die by the nighttime. It took me so long getting back to my right mind.
Okay, guys, we have a special guest here today. We have author, artist, and now director, Mr. Oak Anderson here today. This is a really special treat. He has a new short film called Slit, and it's a hard thriller, and I have seen it, and so has Mac, and we thought it was a great idea to bring him on. So please put your hands together, even though we have no live studio audience, for Mr. Oak Anderson.
Oh, thank you very much, Mac Anderson. Really appreciate that intro, and thanks for having me on.
Welcome to the show. It's our pleasure.
You are actually our first filmmaker here on the podcast. We have, Mac has interviewed, a comedian and what's his name?
Dead Meat, James H. Janice.
Who does like a lot of horror media stuff, like analysis of that. So we're happy for you to be our first filmmaker here today.
Well, we're sharing first because this is my first podcast interview, and I really appreciate it. So yeah, really.
We're both breaking new ground.
Exactly.
Absolutely.
Okay, so we're gonna just get this right off the bat. Why don't you tell our audience a little bit about yourself, just to introduce before we get into our questions?
Yeah, absolutely. So I've always leaned towards art in some sort of way or form, all the way through growing up as a kid into high school and through schooling that way. Some way of expressing through art. And then I ended up in a career more in the security field, but also giving me an opportunity to be in marketing as well. And so it really gave me an opportunity to combine a career with what I love doing, which is art, but also having the time to be able to work on projects on the side. So that's sort of my quick background.
Awesome. I actually, for those who don't know, I actually won a prize pack from the Slit short film contest, and I was able to receive a little postcard and a little necklace, like razor blade, that actually is part for one of the characters in the short. And I could totally see where a lot of your inspiration for art and incorporating marketing for the contest, and actually for the recent box that you actually sent out to press. Was that for your inspiration to get that kind of like Slit box out?
Yeah, and it's funny, that razor blade necklace that and congratulations on winning that prize pack.
Thank you.
Those razor blade necklaces. So I took 100 actual razor blades and I built this little wood contraption that they all fit in snugly. And then I was able to grind them down on stone so that they were dull, and then used glue and paint to create the blood look, but also to add a little bit more glue to make sure that there was no sharpness to it when folks were going to wear them around their neck for our screening party. So that's a little history of how those razor blade necklaces came to be.
Oh.
It's really cool. So to see like all of the marketing stuff that was done for this, please go to Slit Movie on Instagram to see all that fun stuff. So
Link will
Matt,
be in the description below.
what's your first question for Oak here?
Well, I guess my first question to start off with today is, I guess you already did it, but tell us a little bit about like your early life and like kind of like your background and get you like into the arts and like a lot of the filmmaking and everything.
Yeah, so that's a good question, Mac, because I had a lot of different influences, and I'll talk about the most recent after how I got into art and what my sort of path was. From high school, I felt that I was really enjoying art. I wanted to pursue a career in art exclusively. I didn't know exactly what it was going to be, and I did really well in the grades up until the final year. That was the year that the grades mattered the most, going into university or college or wherever I was going to take it from there.
Mhm.
And I had a teacher that didn't really appreciate my style of art. And
Oh, okay.
that was really discouraging for me because I spent hours and hours putting detail into my drawings or anything that I did. And when I got low grades back and saw others that had more simplified creations, and they were all good,
Mhm.
they were getting a higher 90s. And so that was pretty discouraging for me, and it sort of changed the course of my thinking and what I wanted to do for a career. Because art was so subjective, I sort of shifted out of the art direction. So then I went into security, just because I had a bit of a martial arts background, and it's sort of a natural segue for security.
Ooh.
Oh, so we got some like karate style, martial arts, Cobra Kai style here. So you're informing art.
Yeah, and so the security path opened a lot of doors for me that way. And but then I was able to bring back art around, as I mentioned, through marketing. But then my most recent influences, Valerie St. Louis, who's the producer on Slit, has a really great knowledge of horror film. She's been a lifelong fan of horror. And the way Slit came about actually was, Valerie and I were both down in Philadelphia, visiting Joseph DeFrancesco, who I co-authored our latest book, called On This Day.
Mhm.
Mm-hmm.
And we started talking about horror, because On This Day is more of a crime thriller, and we started talking about horror, and that's sort of where the ideas started brewing, and the influences that Valerie has with her knowledge of the horror genre. And then we went into the writing aspect, from idea creation into writing. So that's sort of my background and influences up until present day into film. So Valerie St. Louis, the producer, was the biggest influence in the push to creating a film, or my first film.
Oh, okay. So that's very cool. And before we talk more about Split, please tell our audience what the film is actually about, because it's been circulating all around the film festival route, and we'll talk about that coming up too. So please tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah. So Slit is about when families in a neighborhood are minding their own business in their own homes. But at night, when they leave that slight slit left open in their curtains, in their front window, it basically invites an unwanted guest, being Slicer,
Mm-hmm.
into their homes. Slit was sort of born from and it has a little bit of a security element to it, because
Mm-hmm.
doing security audits and things like that, letting people know that at night, when you have any opening on any of your windows, it gives a direct view to anyone from the outside, and you not being able to see them stood on the outside.
Mm-hmm.
That's sort of where we played off of that for Slit. So Slit is about one family that has left their curtains a slit open, and it all goes horribly from there.
It does. I mean, I really enjoyed the short film itself. I mean, what did you
I
think of
did
that?
too. I liked it. I was telling Christian earlier that like it had the vibes of like it was the good parts of The Strangers like compressed together into a short film. That's what I told her.
Oh, thank you very much. That's a great film. So thanks for comparing it to that, Matt.
No problem.
Yeah.
It was I just enjoyed it a lot. It was very like interesting, and I'm like, wow. Did you like well before like you asked a question, Christian? I wanted to ask just like this quick question.
Mm-hmm.
Was the it's like in total it's 7 minutes and 56 seconds, I believe.
Yep,
Or
right
like
about. Yep.
Was there any plans to make it like maybe a little longer, maybe like half an hour, maybe like 10 minutes?
That's a great question, and it was something that was debated and debated. Being the first film and a very, very low budget, it was under $1,000 total
Really?
budget. Yeah.
That's
Um,
insane.
yeah. So, I mean, we had an incredible group of cast and crew, some friends, some family, some hired on, but everyone was so committed to putting the film together once they heard about the concept and saw the storyboard and read the script, that it was just such a great team effort. For me as a first-time director, everybody else made it easy. All the way up from the production assistant on set, DJ Fimio. He was just incredible at making sure everything was done, and anything that we couldn't have thought of, he thought of. To the homeowners, the Cameron family, they let us in their home for weeks prior to filming to do the location scouting and then doing test shots. And then the actual weekend that we shot filming there. And remind me, please, to tell you the story about how we got a record snowfall the week before
Oh gosh.
our shoot. I have to tell you that story because that's a great one. But and the so Valerie St. Louis, I already mentioned, and of course, Joseph DiFrancesco, who helped co-write the script. And Zamuda Films for the post-production and sound design, Steven Sandu. I mean, everybody just came together and really, really put such a big effort into it. And the actors were so patient and great as a very low budget. I mean, we shot this on an iPhone with a gimbal. And so a lot of our set or props and such was all homemade and everything. So, Jenna Vittoria, who played daughter, and David W. Fimio, who played son, Sylvina Stover played mother, and Warren Stover played father. They were incredibly amazing and on set in their acting and just their patience with the whole process. It made everything really, really seamless. So it was great.
You can really see that through all the photos that I was going through, especially like the behind the scenes stuff. So it felt like that home feeling, like kind of set where everybody felt connected.
Yeah.
And it all comes through together really nicely what the end result is. So my other question for you is that, like, expanding, like, do you see yourself continuing on with this series, like, how Jennifer Kent did, like, her short film and it became The Babadook, and David Sandberg did like Lights Out, where that was a short and that turned into a feature length film. Do you have plans to turn, hopefully, Slit into a future feature?
That's a great question, and those are great movies you referenced there. They're both really, really good. We would love to do something like that, and sort of not forgetting Mac's question, which I don't know if I answered 100% about doing it a longer feature or 30-minute or longer. We didn't want to overstep I didn't want to overstep my bounds of being a first-time film director.
Okay.
So I really wanted to do my best with something short to really see how it does and then how we can improve upon it. So to answer your question, Kristen, yeah, absolutely. We'd love to do something more with this now that we have the experience. We have some positive reviews, one being from yourself, Kristen. Really appreciate it. So we want to investigate Slicer a little further, maybe do something a little bit longer. Absolutely.
It's a great introduction piece to the Slicer character itself. So it sets up many open doors. So Mac, what's your next question?
I wanted to ask you, so since that you've dabbled now into the world of cinema, and that you said that you're a writer and everything with your books and everything, I wanted to ask you, what is your creative process that you go through to sit down and write whatever piece of content that you are planning to write?
So if I were to look at Take One With You, which was my first full-length fiction novel, that process, Mac, was 6 years from concept to publishing. It was something that I had thought about on a daily, weekly, monthly basis that I just couldn't get it out of my head, that I knew I had to do something with it, where I started writing down ideas, which turned into scenarios, which turned into characters. And I really did a slow build because it was, as a first-time writer, it was just a massive undertaking. And much respect to all the authors out there that are able to just sit down and write and bang things out really quickly, because that wasn't me. So I really took a long time with it. And then when I had met Joseph DiFrancesco, and we developed a friendship online through some author networks and such. And we supported each other's work, which was fantastic, and gave each other tips and things like that. And then we decided to co-write On This Day, the crime thriller. That was a little bit different a process. We did that within about a year and a half. Just based on our schedules and him being in Philadelphia. I'm up outside of Toronto.
Oh yeah, I can hear the Canadian accent coming through.
Is it coming out?
I didn't want to say it, but that's totally cool, man.
Perfect. Yeah, it sneaks out every once in a while, I guess. And I don't know if I said a or a boot too many times yet. But
no, you're good.
So, yeah, and Joseph and I had never met the entire time. And the first time that I met Joseph was after we had published the book. And I went down to Philadelphia. I guess it's 2 summers ago now. And yeah, so it was about a year, that process. And then for Slit, Mac, it was a concept. I just wrote a couple notes and then brainstormed it with Joseph and Valerie as well. And then I draw it out. So I guess my artistic side in that regard, I like to put it into a visual for the others that I'm working with on it to see it before it is a written script. So that's sort of my process with that.
So you like to give them like a little storyboard for like when you guys are doing the creative process for Slit?
Yeah, I absolutely. I don't know if I can verbalize what my concept is as well as I can draw it out. So the like the slicer conceptual art, and I don't want to say what that looks like, so I don't give any spoilers, but that was something I felt like I needed to draw a slicer and then present that to Joseph and Valerie and say, this is who I'm thinking is outside of the window.
All right. So my next question for you is to continue off, some of your writing process that you've written. You've written 3 books, correct?
Yes. So Take One With You was the first, and it has 2 short stories that are what I call episodes. So I went backwards in the novel category, where I went with a big novel and then I went with short stories. Whereas with Slit, hopefully we're going from short to a longer version. Yeah, and then On This Day, yes. So,
do you have any new projects coming up that you plan on writing, or now you're just going to continue on with the filmmaking?
That's a tough one. I'm always keeping over busy, so I've got too
That's good. To be over busy is not being busy at all. Is that the best thing?
And so I've got some writing projects in mind that are just loosely, in that conceptual phase right now, and bits and pieces written. From the film side of things, have a really there's an idea that I have that I really want to move forward with. I just have to convince Valerie St. Louis, the producer, to join forces again on this, and then everyone else in the crew. But absolutely, I think the film would be the next step.
That's awesome.
Nice.
All right. So also you've been on the film festival route, and given COVID, are all the film festivals that you're taking part in are virtual because your film has been submitted to the Hollywood Horror Fest 2020, iHorror Film Fest, and was a semi-finalist for the Horror Movie Awards 2020. So how does that feel, and how does it feel to be participating in the film festival aspect?
Yeah, thank you. It's new to me, being a first time filmmaker, um, and it's exciting. There's so many great filmmakers out there, and it's really opened me up to seeing more great content from other artists. When you go through the submission, not the submission list, but the winners and the awards of these festivals. It's just really great to see all of the art and the community. I found the filmmakers community are really supportive of each other,
Mm-hmm.
which has been really great. Creepy Tree Film Festival is one that we had submitted and won a couple awards in as well for Slit.
Oh,
And
no way. Congrats.
yeah,
Nice.
thank you very much. And it's just seeing all the connectivity of all the other filmmakers and artists and writers has been really inspiring. It's a great group, great company to be in. So it's just the whole film experience has been really positive, from all of the actors, the cast and crew that I mentioned, right into others who would be considered your competitors going into these festivals. But it's really not like that. It really seems like a big family. It's been really great.
Yeah, totally. From personally attending film festivals myself, I hate the competition aspect because, you know, it doesn't matter who wins or loses in the end. What matters is that you're showing artwork to other creators to get other people inspired and, take notes from each other and, watch great content in the end. And if you win something, that's awesome. If you don't, the fun that it all is participating in the festival itself. So
100% agree, Kristen. Yeah, and that's what I've experienced. So that's it's been a really, really great. And virtual or not virtual, I think it's the film festival industry is still chugging along, and content creators are seeing that is happening. So they're getting back out there and creating more content. So it's been inspiring. Our screening party for Slit was scheduled right at the beginnings of COVID. So we put that off until just a couple of weeks ago, and ended up holding it outside of my house, just so we could have people do a drive-by. I wanted to give them their razor blade necklaces.
Nice.
I wanted all the cast and crew to still have that closure of that experience of the screening party. They all deserved it incredibly. So we made it a fun day, and we just did a socially distanced drive-by screening red carpet, and pictures are up on Slit Movie on Instagram. And then we did a Zoom meeting for everybody to watch the film online once they got back home later that night.
Right.
So
that's a really cool premiere.
got to figure it out, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
But you can. So Mac, do you have any other questions?
Another question I have is that obviously this is a film podcast. We talk about films, any type of film we can get our hands on. So I wanted to ask you, Oak, what do you have any directors, writers, films, actors that like inspire you, like that have inspired you throughout your life that you like? Maybe it's your favorite. Maybe some movies that you don't like that inspire you to maybe do better than that.
Wow. Yeah. There's a lot. One and I'll an experience that really excited me about film was Valerie St. Louis, producer, being such a big horror fan. I had taken her down to LA to Rob Zombie's movie premiere for 31.
Oh.
Which was, I guess that's about 4 years ago now. And being in that at that premiere, and then we met Robert Corpsey Ryan, who is with Girls and Corpses magazine, and he's produced several films. He was a producer, executive producer, I believe it was, on 31 for Rob Zombie's film. We met him and started talking with Corpsey. Ended up going out for dinner with him the next night and chatting about film and things like that. That was a really inspiring trip. It was just wild, and I still keep in contact with Corpsey. So Rob Zombie's film 31 and his other works, there's a lot of great work out there that he's done with doing some bringing some older films back, like Halloween, and but really the horror experience, I think I seep that off of Valerie, just her knowledge of film. And when we watch film, and she says, "You see how that's happening? You see how they did that?" Or and then I mean, I've been sat in a room with Valerie where there were horror movie posters on the wall, and I said, "Do you know who the makers of Friday the 13th were? Friday the 13th?" And she said the name. I said, "No, that's not right." I said, it begins with an M. She said, "Oh, you mean Mustafa Akkad? He's not with Friday the 13th, he's with Halloween." And I'm like, how do you retain all of this? It's just really incredible. So I get the benefits of others by the influence that way.
That's awesome.
And I have to tell you sorry, go ahead if you had another question. I don't want to forget to tell you the story of the record Snowfall.
Okay, we'll get to that at the end. But
perfect.
One of the things I found from looking at your artwork on Instagram, it's incredible. If you guys need to go look at some artwork, go to Oak Anderson's Instagram page. He's got a really cool painting of a tree frog that I'm like really obsessed with at the moment. It's kind of cool. And then you also did like a painting of Jason Momoa and Stephen King. And I saw on Instagram that you got Jason Momoa to sign it. So I want to ask you about your experience with that. But then I also want to ask about, do you draw some inspiration from one of horror's best and legendary authors and, inspirations for like it and everything, Stephen King? So do you see inspirations from that? And then also going back to the Jason Momoa.
Yeah, we can't forget about Jason Momoa. Absolutely. No. So being a fan of Game of Thrones, and then knowing that Jason Momoa was going to be at the Fan Expo that was local to me, I think I found out about a month prior. So scrambled to paint something of Khal Drogo so that I could hopefully get an autograph on the painting from Jason Momoa. And the lineups are huge. He came in, he sat up at the front at the table, finally got round to meeting him and shook his hand. And he held out the painting, and one of his colleagues at the side of him said, "He painted that." And Jason looked back at me, and then he pushed it further away from himself and went, "Wow," and then went to sign it. And Valerie St. Louis was beside me during that whole experience, and she was the one taking the photos and was visibly shaking. Just in Jason's presence.
That's like, Aquaman right there. It's like, how can you not be like shaking?
Yeah, absolutely. He is quite a character. It was great meeting him, and he stands for some great causes too. So it was a pleasure to meet him and have him sign the painting. And then Stephen King, absolutely. I don't know how many of his books are on my bookshelf, but definitely an inspiration. And thought I had to draw a paint him. That's a legend. So wanted to get him on canvas as well.
Do you see that come also through your film work as well when it comes to Stephen King from Slit?
Yeah, it's I'm sure there's some parallels that can be drawn from Stephen King inspiration. Definitely, he's got a great way of storytelling, and if I can be have any parallels drawn, that would be flattering, but definitely an inspiration. And Chris, I should mention that tree frog painting that you brought up. That one was done. I've started to try and maximize time in the day, so I've combined painting and stationary bike cycling. So that frog painting was actually completely painted while I was riding a stationary bike.
No freaking way.
Yeah, yeah.
That's so cool. I never heard anybody doing like that before. That's neat.
Yeah, it was about, I rode about 112, I think it was 112 kilometers while painting that over a bunch of different sittings. It wasn't in one sitting.
I'm about to say, wow.
Jeez, that's really cool. I can barely, like, when I do something like that, I can barely read north of that. So for you to be painting, that's just as cool.
I can watch ESPN. That's it.
I really got into it last winter when it was cold and couldn't get out to bike, but also some of the paintings that I was doing were taking so many hours. I was feeling guilty for the amount of time that I was creating, but I felt like I could do something more. So that's actually I started Full Cycle Art on Instagram and started sharing some of those paintings and the cycling, and I really want to get back into it. I just had my first ride again the other day as the weather starts to cool off.
That's awesome. All right, before we wrap things up, I do want to hear about that snowfall story.
You got
another question?
Yeah, I got one more question. But I was like, oh no. But wait.
I'm good. Yeah, go right ahead.
Okay, one question, because we're talking about Jason Momoa. I wanted to ask you: are you excited for the Justice League Snyder Cut to come on HBO and Max next year?
When next year is it coming?
I feel like it's gonna be like the summer. It's gonna be the perfect summertime, like HBO Max miniseries, because they're probably gonna do like a weekly episodic release, because they're releasing it in like 4 parts.
Yeah, it's gonna be like a little like movie series type thing.
Definitely looking forward to that. I saw an article, I think yesterday I was reading something about it, and I didn't catch the date, so thanks for letting me know that, Mac. Yeah, that'll be fantastic to see.
But my real final question, it is, do you have any future ambitions, aka like maybe like a big dream project that you want to do with like certain people, or like a certain concept that you see yourself that you would want to do in the future?
I love trying new things and different things, and I as you can see, I go from the writing to art to film, and just I love that. I love new experiences, and being able to work on a full feature length film in any capacity, I would really, really love to do that. I tried out being an extra years and years and years ago, because I just wanted to see what that whole film studio experience was like. And as an extra, it's just a lot of sitting around in a room with a bunch of Oreos and other things on tables for you to eat.
Pretty much, but you can't go wrong with those Oreos. The craft table's the best part.
Absolutely. So it was a really neat experience, and I enjoyed that. And so I really want to see if I can get onto onto a full feature-length film and being a part of the whole thing. That would be something I'd really aspire to be.
What film were you an extra for?
So I was uncredited, all uncredited, and then I was a jail guard on the film Bait.
On September 15th.
So how long does it take for you guys to get these out of development?
Jamie Foxx is Bait.
Looking for a job.
Didn't you rob me a few years ago?
I had a couple of problems.
Bait. Rated R. Catch it September 15th.
Which was with Jamie Foxx, and I'm forgetting the other gentleman's name, and he was such a great guy. He used to be on a show called Murphy Brown. He was a caretaker. and I really wish I could say his name right now and remember his name, because he was so amazing on set. He was just the nicest guy, and he made me feel really, really comfortable. And essentially, he and Jamie Foxx were in a jail cell, and I'm one of the guards that come in and grab Jamie Foxx and drag him down the hall.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. That one was a lot of fun.
Put on your IMDb, I had physical contact with Jamie Foxx.
Yes, there you go.
Oh man, that's a 2002 movie. Oh, a 2000 movie. Oh my goodness, I forgot about this movie and it came out. Oh my goodness.
That's an old one. Yeah, I've been around for a little while. That's an old one. It's a funny movie.
Well, like before, we were gonna like wrap it up. Tell us about this record snowfall story, because it seems like it's a thrilling tale.
So yeah, absolutely. The Cameron family that let us use their home as set location number 3.
Mm-hmm.
They were incredible all the way through, and doing our test shots and everything that I mentioned. But then on the coordinated Saturday, I believe it was, with a potential of a leak into Sunday for any reshoots, there was a record snowfall on the Monday, I believe it was. It was more than a foot, and this was very early in the year. It was in October, or I'm completely forgetting which month it was now, but it was unheard of to get snow, let alone a record snowfall of more than a foot. And
Jesus.
We needed to shoot a scene that had shots going from interior, showing the exterior of the front of the house, which is the front lawn and street.
Mm-hmm.
And we had shots that we needed to be standing all on that front lawn, shooting towards the front door of the home. But there was a foot of snow, and it was on the roof, it was in the bushes. So Blair Cameron, who actually is Slicer's body double, he shoveled it. So he saved the shoot. I went there one night, and I started shoveling, and he came out, and I said, "No, please don't. Let me handle this." And he just wouldn't take no for an answer to not help him, and he did that. And then it snowed again.
Oh, wow.
Oh man.
And he said, "Don't come back," because it was a fair drive for me to get over to his place. He said, "Don't worry about it. I've got it." So he, I don't know, all that he raked it after he shoveled it. He got all of the snow out of the bushes and off of the window ledges of the home. So all of the shots that you see exterior, that are around that family home near the ending of the movie, was all completely covered in snow.
Oh my gosh.
If you pay really, really close attention, you can probably see a bit on the roof, or if you look off into the distance in some of the shots. But his neighbors thought that he was on who knows what, because he's out there shoveling his front lawn and shaking his bushes off, and it looked like it was a home in Arizona, sat in the middle of this winter wonderland, because he didn't have a speck of snow anywhere to be seen. So he saved the shoot, because it was the day that worked for everybody. And yeah, it was great. And I hope that I've mentioned everybody. We did some post audio. So Olivia Anderson came in and helped us out with some screams that you've probably heard at some point in the movie there.
Yeah.
Maureen Anderson did some work in the background in one of the homes at the beginning of the film. Kevin Ucana was a huge help from a tech perspective and camera operating and just being there all the time to help us with everything. So everybody was just fantastic. And you know what, Mac and Kristen, to you both as well, for having me on to do this podcast. It was an honor to be asked. And as I mentioned, it's my first podcast interview, and your interest in the film. It's just everything related to this whole experience. Everyone's been really fantastic, so it's appreciated.
Of course, we love having
No
filmmakers
problem, man.
on, and getting you as our first filmmaker, it's an honor to us. So thank you for your time, and Mac and I were very happy. So for those who want to go follow you, where can we find you at?
Yeah.
In terms of your socials.
Yeah, so on Instagram, at Oak Anderson, at Slit Movie, and at Full Cycle Art. And to watch the trailer, anyone can go to www.slitmovie.com. There's actually 2 versions of a trailer now. Zamuda Films was kind enough to put a second trailer together, so really appreciate that. And it's all up on the website there.
All the links will be in
Awesome.
the description below, by the way, for everyone who wants to go see it.
Thank you so much, Oak, for coming on our show today.
We really appreciate it.
We really appreciate it. All right, one more time, guys. Oak Anderson, everybody.
Thank you, Mac and Kristen. Mac, we really appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Anytime. And once again,
Anytime.
we tell everyone they're always welcome to come back if you want to come back on. You can be like a guest. If we're doing a podcast where we have a topic, you can always just come back on. We can talk about the topic.
I am 100% open to that anytime.
Or
Thank
any new projects. Please come on and promote it, whatever you would love to do. Even if we would love to have you on. New
Mhm.
painting, we'll have you on. We want to see all your wonderful creations.